lamb up and we're going to brown it. Lamb is a popular meat in Tunisia. A large percentage of the population, the Berber population, was originally nomadic. And if you're nomadic, really the easy way to feed yourself is to let your food walk from point A to point B, and then when you arrive, and you take the meat and you cook it quickly over a fire. So lamb speaks to that. Lamb is taken while it's young, so you don't have to worry about having enough pasture land or forage to feed an older animal. As interesting as all that is, lamb is also delicious, and I think that's what's important here. Okay, this lamb is probably about halfway cooked. We're going to season it with these spices, as I said. Here, I've got cardamom, a sweet spice with sort of a camphorous quality. Here, clove, very sweet, almost an antiseptic quality to it. It has like a numbing effect. Ginger, which is very peppery. I've got cumin. I've got cinnamon, both of which I think you're probably familiar with. Coriander, which is the seed from cilantro, has kind of a citrusy quality, and then black pepper. All of these spices are going to make their way into the pan, but especially cumin. I want to make sure that there's a good amount of cumin in here. And then, if you want this preparation to be a little bit richer, you can add a little bit of saffron as well. And I've soaked that saffron in water. We'll season the meat with salt, and I'm going to turn it off, and I would say that is done. I'd like to let it cool, and I have some that was cooked earlier and has cooled already, and so we can move on. I'm going to oil this pan. I'll just let the oil make sure that nothing sticks. And we're going to mix together egg and some cheese. This is Gruyere cheese. It's this egg that's going to bind our tagine all together. There is a little pepper there, some salt. The cheese itself is pretty salty. So these are the components that are going to go into our tagine. The meat that's been sautéed, eggs and cheese. I have some ricotta cheese here as well, and then finally some hard-boiled eggs that we'll add as a filling. So here we go. First, a little bit of the egg custard on the bottom. Once that cooks, it will create a crust of sorts. And then I'm going to put about a half of this lamb in, and we'll spread it around. Nicely seasoned. On top of that, I'm going to put some ricotta cheese, and I'm going to press some hard-boiled eggs right into this as a nice little garnish. And then in goes another third of the eggs and cheese. We'll spread that around. The rest of the lamb. And while I can still see where those first hard-boiled eggs are, I'm going to put these others in between. The rest of our ricotta cheese goes in. Okay, the ricotta cheese is going to be spread out. I'm just going to season it a little bit with salt and pepper, and we'll finish with the remaining third of the egg and cheese. Spread that evenly over the top. And this tagine is ready to go into an oven at about 375 degrees for, I would say, about 30 minutes. You want to make sure that the egg is all cooked, that this becomes firm. So before it goes into the oven, if you have allowed any of the filling to splash up on the side, it's a nice idea just to wipe that down, because what will happen is that will bake on and make a big mess on your dish when you finally take it from the oven. All right, let's go to the oven. And I'm going to take this and put it into the preheated oven, as I said, for about 30 minutes. I have one here that is already baked. And let me bring it over so you can see what it looks like. The cheese browns beautifully. All it needs is a little bit of chopped parsley as a garnish. And now you know what Tunisian tagine is and how it's distinct from Moroccan tagine. I would eat this while it's still warm from the oven, but if it's allowed to come to room temperature, it's not a problem. It will still taste delicious. So before we leave Tunisia, I wanted to gather together all of the food that we made. We have the meze over here, the small dishes to begin the meal. Oftentimes then they would move on to something like brick, which you can find in restaurants as easily as you can find it on the streets. I made a distinction between the tagine that you might find in Tunisia and the tagine that you might find if you made your way to Morocco. This bound with egg, this more like a stew. And then I have one last dish right here. It's called chakchuka, and I just wanted to offer it up to you to help you understand one ingredient in particular. They have a sausage in Tunisia called merguez, and all of the sausage that you and I eat likely are pork sausage, but for religious reasons they don't eat pork in Tunisia. So what you will find is sausages that are made with either beef or lamb. And merguez, more often than not, I think you will find made with lamb. This chakchuka is stewed peppers and tomatoes with a lot of the spices we've seen in the other dishes. This one has the merguez in it. And just before you serve it, you crack an egg into the chakchuka. And if you take a look, I can break open these eggs and the yolk is still runny, and that becomes the garniture for this stewed pepper and tomato dish. So that's Tunisia. The preparations are simple. This is really ground zero for some food that's a little bit spicy. So you'll taste it here, you'll taste it here, and likely what's responsible is harissa.